Namaste, my name is Shailaja. In today's video, I'll be talking about Kundalini Awakening symptoms. This is a big topic, so I'm making this in three parts, this being the first part. In today's part, I'll be talking about those kind of symptoms which will be experienced by a person who is predetermined to have a Kundalini Awakening. Maybe this person had practiced certain sadhanas in his past life, or maybe his soul is qualified enough for this kind of an awakening. So early on in his life, this person will experience certain symptoms which are indicators to a latent Kundalini activity that is happening within the body. Maybe much later in life, this person might realize that he is undergoing a Kundalini awakening. But these symptoms which are happening within the body latently, they are an early indicator of the Kundalini awakening process happening within the body. In my last video, I spoke about the symptoms experienced by meditators. And I even spoke about a Raja Yoga method. Raja Yoga method, it gives a structure to a spiritual practitioner as to how he can evolve on the spiritual path. This method has 8 limbs, the 7th being meditation and the 8th being the state of Samadhi. The state of Samadhi are superconscious states which are experienced by the spiritual practitioner. No matter what method the person is following, it can be meditation, it can be mantra chanting, it can be selfless service, knowledge path, path of devotion, Kriya Yoga, Raja Yoga, it can be any method. The end result is the state of Samadhi, because every person yearns to merge his consciousness with the universal consciousness. These states of Samadhi are only possible when a person has a Kundalini awakening, no matter what path he follows. The ultimate state of Samadhi can only be attained by somebody who has had a Kundalini awakening. A person by his own effort can only reach the states of very deep meditative states. He cannot go beyond that. Now, say a person is meditating on an object, say a flower. So now there is a meditator, there is a flower, and there's this experience of meditation. In the sea, you have waves which rise and fall. Say one wave is the meditator, and the other wave is the flower. Now, as long as these waves are rising up, you have this experience of the flower being separate and you being separate. And there's this experience of the meditation. Say these waves collapse back into the sea and there are no waves. That means the meditator, the flower, and the whole experience of meditation has collapsed into a singularity. So this is the state of Samadhi where the object of meditation, the meditator, and the whole experience becomes one. So the sense of separation has gone between these things. There is a difference in the way the nervous system functions in somebody who is spiritually evolved and in somebody who is not evolved spiritually. Not just the nervous system, even the hormonal production and the way the different glands work in the body is different. And that is the reason why the spiritually awakened person thinks and acts differently to the normal person who's not awakened. Kundalini energy is electrical energy. And the nervous system of a person must be able to handle this energy while it is moving through the system. Say, for example, let's take a bulb of 40 volts. When you pass 40 volts through it, it lights and it burns bright. But say we put 200 volts into a 40 volt bulb, then the bulb will burst because it cannot handle the excessive energy. In the same way, when a Kundalini awakening happens in a person's body, this body now has to deal with extra electrical impulses moving through it. And the body nervous system should be well developed, and the nerves should be covered with the myelin sheath. If you look at the picture here, you can see the first picture is the picture of the nerve cell, and you can see dendrite written here. So these dendrites, they receive information, chemical messages, electrical impulses from the surrounding nerve cells, and this nerve cell, it transmits those through the axon to the next nerve cell. Now the axon is where you see the myelin sheath covering. If you look at the second image, you can see the yellow substance that is covering the nerve cell. That is the myelin sheath. If this myelin sheath is not properly formed, or if it is damaged, then it cannot conduct a nerve electrical impulse effectively. So in a spiritually awakened person, this myelin sheath is very well formed. Generally, when a person, any person, attains the age of 21 or 22, they have a well developed myelin sheath on the nervous system. But in a spiritually awakened person, this is even better developed. When someone is predestined to have a Kundalini awakening in this lifetime, or maybe the Kundalini awakening process has started in his previous lifetime, generally when they hit puberty, that is around the age of 14 or 15, the Kundalini activity within the body starts happening latently. The person may not be aware of it. He will experience certain symptoms in the normal course of his life, but he may not attribute these symptoms to a Kundalini awakening. But the activity is happening in his body in the background. These symptoms become more prominent only 7 years after the myelin sheath is properly formed. That is, say, in the late 20s or early 30s, this person will start experiencing Kundalini symptoms more profoundly. That is when he will start searching for answers for the symptoms, various symptoms he is experiencing, and that is when he will realize that he is undergoing a Kundalini awakening. Generally, it is in the late 20s that people realize that they have the Kundalini awakening, except for few people who are great souls. Ramana Maharshi, the first picture is of Ramana Maharshi, and this saint, he had his Kundalini awakening process completed by the age of 16 years. That is when he attained the states of Samadhi, superconscious states. And Meher Baba, he had a female guru, and he too attained the states of superconsciousness at an early age. At this age, their nerves are not properly developed, or because their nerves have not formed the myelin sheath yet to handle the Kundalini electrical energy. But still, they could handle this energy in their nervous system and attain higher states of Samadhi. So, these people are exceptions to the rule. But for somebody who's undergoing this process, it generally starts in late 20s, or generally when somebody has a healthy Kundalini awakening. What I mean by this is when the Kundalini is on the right path, there are many pathways that lead Kundalini up to the Sahasrara. So when it's on the right pathway and the awakening is going to culminate properly, those kinds of healthy awakenings, they happen in three ways. That is, one is the person should be under a guru's supervision, that is a teacher's supervision, and he needs the blessings of his teacher. That is one way where this can be attained. Second is Shaktipat, where they are initiated into this process by some enlightened being. Or the third way is that they're touched by God. So these three pathways, they lead the person into having a healthy awakening. Generally, when somebody wants to attain the Kundalini awakening and they try on their own, what happens is the energy might at the most reach the Agya Chakra, but it does not proceed beyond Agya Chakra, because to go beyond this chakra, you need the Guru's blessings or a Shakti path, or you should be touched by God, or you need the God's grace. My experience goes like this. The picture you see here is of Lord Balaji, or he's even called as Venkateshwara. He is the avatar of Lord Vishnu. When I was 29 years old, I was asleep, and while I was asleep, I felt somebody was holding my hand like this, very tightly. I woke up from sleep, but I could not open my eyes. I felt my eyes were glued together. I could not open it no matter what. Suddenly, an image flashed in my mind. And in that image, I saw that Lord Venkateshwara was holding my hand. Immediately, my body experienced intense bliss, intense waves of bliss. And this whole experience lasted about 10 to 15 seconds. Immediately, he left my hand, and that is when I could open my eyes. And all this experience was happening to me while I was in a wakeful state, but I could not open my eyes. I could not believe what happened, and at that point in time, I had no idea that this would lead to a Kundalini awakening. The only thing I understood was Lord Venkateshwara held my hand, and I was very happy that he did that. I spoke about it to all my friends and my relatives. The feeling that he held my hand, that the sensation was there for about 3 to 4 days. So my awakening happened because of touch by God. As I said earlier, few are destined to have the Kundalini awakening process happening in this lifetime. They might understand that they're undergoing this process much later in life, but they start experiencing certain symptoms from the time that they've hit puberty. That is, from the age of, say, 15, 16, they start experiencing these early symptoms of a Kundalini awakening because the body is changing internally to uh, get prepared for the Kundalini awakening process. So there are some latent things that are happening within the body, and these surface as minor symptoms externally. So the first being, uh, generally they have stomach problems. That is because the pranic force is trying to realign. And when it is trying to realign along the spine, the thing that is first affected is Manipura chakra. And because of that, the person might experience stomach ailments like hyperacidity or stomach pain or some kind of stomach disorder which is chronic in nature. And no matter how many medicines they take, the ailment keeps recurring very often, and it takes many years before the symptom can subside. Next, they develop many warts, cysts, pimples, rashes, and rashes and are because of, generally because we all take vaccinations when we are babies. The virus in the vaccination lodges itself into the DNA. So while Kundalini is trying to clean away the nadis, it even cleans the DNA. So the viruses that are there within are pushed out of the system. And these are experienced as allergies, as rashes, and they are released from the system. Then they generally, people who have a Kundalini awakening, they have develop a little blackness here and rashes or pimples in this area because the energy is moving through this area. If you can see, I have a slight black mark on either side here. That is because of the energy movement. Then they have rippled nails. Rippled nails are very common in somebody whose body is undergoing a latent Kundalini process. My nails are all rippled. And then the big toe, if you look at the first picture here, the big toe of the left leg, that is connected to the thyroid gland here. So the nail, the big toe nail, it blackens and it falls off. In that place, a new nail comes. And this can happen about once or twice between the age of 15 to 30 years. So that is in the 15 years, it can happen once or twice. Sudden hair fall. Generally, maybe in a day or maybe in a week, a person loses nearly half of the hair that is there on his head. It just falls off at an alarming rate. So this can happen once or twice in that 15 years. And then people experience a lot of choking while they're eating. Generally, what happens is we have the food pipe and we have uh, the pipe, air pipe through which we breathe. So when we're eating something, when we're swallowing something, water or food, the valve on the air pipe closes so that it does not move into that. Rather, the food and the water has to move into the food pipe. But now what happens is the pranic energy that is flowing upwards, it somehow, while it is moving up, it damages the air pipe valve a little. So these people can choke when they are swallowing food. That is, the food will enter the air pipe or the water might accidentally move into the air pipe. So they choke a lot and they have to be careful when they eat, especially when they eat items which have syrup in it. Then they experience locked jaw. That is, they cannot move their jaw sideways. That is because of the energy that is moving up. Heart palpitations happen, especially in the months of July and August. And as a youngster, it can be alarming because at that age, nobody experiences heart palpitations or heart fluttering. It is just the sign of the Anahata chakra opening up. When they have cold, which they do have often, that is because the body's energetic vibration is moving up, so that can manifest as flu. When they have that, they cough severely. And while they cough severely, because the thyroid gland here is also trying to open up, and they may experience a buzzing noise in the neck or in the thyroid area. They can have hormonal problems. They experience excessive salivation. And then comes the third eye area. So when somebody touches them here, they might feel tickled or they might experience headaches. So these people don't like when somebody touches them in this area. And they cannot even stand sunlight. When they have exposed to sun for a few minutes, they feel like the skin is burning and they cannot withstand the sunlight. So they prefer to be in the shady areas. They experience a lot of headaches because of the change that is happening in the brain chemistry. You look at the third picture, you can see that the skin is peeling off the hands and legs. This is not a skin disease, it is just a Kundalini symptom. And this can happen to them once or twice between that age of 15 and 30. Then generally their feet and hands are colder than the average person. As teenagers, these people experience emotions, a wide range of emotions, and their emotions are heightened and they're very sensitive. So everything becomes big. Every small emotion is becomes big. If it's anger, the anger is heightened. If it is joy, the joy is heightened. If they're experiencing fear, they will experience a lot of fear. When they experience pain, emotional pain, it is experienced at a much deeper level. So as teenagers, they experience a lot of pain, and then a normal person, their emotions and the level of pain, emotional pain they can experience is much greater than what a normal person will experience. And that is because of the underlying Kundalini activity. Kundalini, it heightens every emotion a person feels. Generally, in their teens, say from the age of 15, 16, they might have at least one or two paranormal experiences where they might see beings of other dimensions. Then they are attracted to a lot of mystical knowledge. They love to listen to legends, read books on ancient civilizations, and they're attracted to mystical symbols and somehow feel connected to these civilizations and these symbols. And they doodle too. When they doodle, they are unknowingly doodling mystical symbols. They have a strong inner voice that guides them in their life. And because they're predestined to have a Kundalini awakening, uh, this voice guides them onto the right path. So, no matter what decisions they take in life, what life choices they might make, it will all lead into a Kundalini awakening. And they prefer to live by higher values. These people have an innate wisdom. Since they are a child, they know that they're born not just to eat, sleep, work, but there's something much higher than that in life, and that they have a higher purpose in life. They know this. They start questioning life. They question their belief systems. They question relationships. They question everything because they want to see the truth in everything. They want genuineness in them. They want genuineness in the opposite person, and they want genuineness in their life situations. For these reasons, these people question life a lot. And generally, they feel different, they feel alone because they don't fit into groups or crowds. And they like to stay away from crowds. They cannot tolerate lower attitudes or lower level of thinking. And generally, they have some kind of talent. It could be writing poetry, or maybe painting, or maybe they're a good artist. They have some kind of a talent which generally it gets better with age, and after the Kundalini awakening they get very good at what they are doing. If we can look back at our lives, then we are able to study our life better. We understand that life starts showing us signs and symptoms about this profound awakening we are about to experience. But at that point, we did not have the wisdom or the understanding, or we were not equipped enough to understand these various symptoms could lead to a Kundalini awakening. In today's video, I've discussed the Kundalini awakening symptoms a person might experience if they are predestined to have a Kundalini awakening. In my next two videos, I'll be discussing various other Kundalini symptoms which might occur when somebody is going through the actual Kundalini awakening process. Namaste.